Hey, welcome to Dollar Views. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Montmanex.
We're just a couple of Long Beach State film grads with a lifelong passion for cinema trying to put our money where our mouths are.
And we decided to make our BAs mean something by offering our spoiler-free take on the latest film releases.
We go over it all, $1 at a time.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your life trying to widen it. Your work saved the lives of thousands. What if I told you that reality is one of many?
I don't believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief.
You wonder what I see in your future? Possibility.
When's the last time we did one of these? Yoga hosers?
Oh yeah, that's right.
No, that was a long time ago.
Kind of forgot about that one. Yeah, no, that's 2 months now. Holy shit.
2 months ago, I was in a
2 months
completely
ago.
different state. Emotions were still intact. I wasn't fucking stressing out every night over the same girl.
You're fine. Don't worry about it. You're fine. I mean, if there's anything good that you can get out of this movie, it's, remember, just don't text and drive.
Seriously, though.
Or maybe you should, because maybe that'll
No,
get you some
well,
superpowers.
yeah, you'll get some wizard powers.
Yeah.
I
maybe
loved
that's
how they...
what you need, is you need to go to Tibet just to try to get over your own personal problems, and maybe this could be you, Brian.
I
Maybe.
loved how they turned this into a don't text and drive PSA. They seriously did. Like when you wait for the movie, when you wait
yeah.
for the closing credit sequence, it reminds you once again, it's like texting while driving is not worth it.
And that
Like,
is right,
obey
that's
the
right at
rules
the
of
end
the
of the
road.
spell book, which is actually kind of brilliant.
Was it really?
No, think about it. It's at the end of the spell book that they write down that message for you. It's in the credits.
It's in the credits.
So yeah, it's at the end of the spell book.
It's like
I'm
almost
not
like
the
Triple
first
X.
person to say that, by the way. That joke's been made so
Oh,
many
I'm
times.
sure. It's
but-
kind of like Triple X, how it's an anti-smoking PSA. Those things will kill you. If it was a little harder here, it'd been great. But what'd you think? You saw this with a good crowd? When did you see
Yes,
it?
I did. I saw it in 3D, as did you, I think.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D, but I caught a matinee, so not that many people in
No,
the theater.
well, I mean, honestly, it was a lot of fun. Like, I'm done with the ranking of the MCU and all that
it's
shit.
fucking stupid, because every
Like-
time the movie comes out, there's a new ranking, and...
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, and I'll give this a rating, and it's not going to be as high as some of my favorites, but dude, like, it's kind of like I'll be saying some of the same things, sort of, about what I said about Ant-Man last year when we reviewed that, It was fun like that, a very different kind of fun, but I walked out with the same kind of high and just enjoyment that I got from that movie. Like they're both very different, obviously, but it's a fun Marvel movie, and like it's not another sequel. It's nice that I think like every fucking year now, there was Ant-Man last year, Guardians the year before that, where we get a new
we
character or a new
the new
group of
blood.
characters, and it's still Marvel, but there's something different there that still makes it feel fresh. And even though everything is being sequelized and franchised, like this still was very refreshing in its own way.
It's interesting because it is a Marvel movie. It still has the same tropes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very much so. There's this guy. He has a girl. He has powers. He's going to save the day. And it's, very similar to Ant-Man, despite the difference in what they can do. But before Doctor Strange becomes the Sorcerer Supreme, like before he goes on the hero journey story, just who he is in the beginning was interesting enough that I would have kind of wanted to see more of that, like an extra 10 minutes or so, just to really understand his ego and his wants and desires, and to really make a better case for why he deserves to be this superhero. It's probably one of the worst things about this film is that it's kind of
The origin
flimsy.
story is pretty weak. Like,
Yeah.
in a sense, I can see why and sort of justify why, in that we're used to the tropes of the origin story. So why bore an audience with that? Like, because, I mean, I don't want to say that it's boring, but because it's always consistently fun just seeing him getting to where he is.
Yeah.
But emotionally, like, you like the guy watching him, but you're not really as invested in the same way as he is, and it just kind of goes through the motions as far as, like right after the accident and then him recovering. It really just sort of
I've seen
happens
this
in
before.
a montage, and it's like, okay, I know what the tropes are, and I guess I see why we're going through that real quick, but I'm not really feeling the journey emotionally in the sense that I feel I want to.
It's like I watched this emotionally. And it was a distraction. This was cinema of entertainment attractions. Like, this was me just trying to get my mind off of what was going on in the real world.
It's pure escapism.
Totally. And the film is perfect for that. I mean, it's gorgeous, seen in 3D. Like, it really is worth that money just to see this Inception-esque. And that's putting it mildly, because it really goes far beyond what Christopher Nolan and Wally Pfister did there.
Oh, let's
Like,
not. I mean, they're completely different.
completely
I mean, yeah,
different,
they have
but I mean,
kaleidoscopic imagery.
yeah, I
sure.
mean that the MC Escher kaleidoscopic world falling on itself type of stuff. What's done here in the mirror world is just miles beyond that. Like, you can tell that they were inspired. Just visually a treat, like so appetizing, like literally eye candy. Even if you don't care for the story and the love interest and the music, which Michael Giacchino did an okay job, but it's once again pretty forgettable.
But I
Even
do like his touch on the Marvel logo, which that new logo,
Yeah.
by the way,
It's pretty good. I didn't like
Really
the first
cool.
time I saw it, but really cool, especially in 3D. I loved.
it wasn't just all that crazy imagery in the mirror dimension, or the first time that he's thrown in his little 2001 Into the Beyond moment.
the astral
like,
plane thing.
Yeah, it's just even the normal shots, like the basic stuff in the courtyard where they're training, like
Yeah.
all that stuff is very well composed with mid-ground, foreground, and background. Like I don't think this was shot for 3D, but it was definitely
Wasn't.
framed for it, and
Yeah,
it looks beautiful in just about every shot.
Like, more than half the movies I've seen this year in theaters, I've seen in 3D, and some of them I did it on purpose. Most of them I did on purpose.
Dang.
And every single time, doesn't matter if it's animation now or live action or if it's a hybrid in the case of Jungle Book, it's always good now. And I don't know if audiences are aware of that because they were so shunted at the onset of the new generation that if you pay that extra $3, you literally do get that money's worth. Like,
I do think it's still a thing, though, of depending on what theater you're at, honestly. Like,
yeah,
I am lucky
how
that
good the projector is, how recent the bulbs were changed,
Yeah,
all
like-
kinds of stuff like that.
Unfortunately, there are multiplexes where projection is just kind of shitty, and that's especially the case for 3D. And like, I'm very lucky actually that I live where I do, where stuff like that is inexcusable. If there's a problem, they fix it.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time I had a problem with 3D other than, just seeing a bad conversion, but they definitely shoot it. Like, they know now. Like, when James Cameron came up with a way to convert Titanic, he's like, well, we had the blueprints for the models and we had
Yeah.
the CG stuff. And it's like, we knew the distance on just the blueprint. Could know the distance
Cameron's
for the
very
camera.
meticulous, but now even if they know that it's going to be converted, they'll at least
they
have
just-
stereographers on set
Yeah.
where even if it's not their favorite thing to do, they'll know like, hey, maybe you can do this in 3D and make this moment look cool.
I still really like taking off the glasses here or there to see how strong the 3D effect is for certain shots. And I didn't do it once for any of the Mirror World stuff here, just because I didn't.
Why would you? Yeah, no,
Exactly. I didn't want to ruin it, but for instance, when
Well,
he's
it's like
sitting,
you can tell there's clearly a person being separated from like all this stuff in the background that is just pushed way, way, way back, and a lot of it is vertigo-inducing. That's like, yeah, I'm actually invested enough that I'm not even thinking like, oh, I have glasses on. Like I'm just kind of peering into this window. Like I'm in a plane that's probably like in turbulence, is about to go crashing down or something. I don't know how to describe what it was like looking at that stuff when everyone's running upside down or on different planes and shit. Like, it's not just the 3D. Like, I just enjoyed looking at this movie. I'm sure that 3D is definitely a big factor of that, but
it's a pretty movie.
Yeah, it's just it is a lot like just that imagery. Like, you just like getting lost in it. Like some of the great movies, which even if this is not close to stuff like that, I mean, I'm going to stop babbling on, but I'm just going to end it here. Like, yeah, this is definitely Marvel's best use of 3D, in my opinion.
I haven't seen all their stuff in 3D, but I just have to assume, based on what I have seen, that,
they've done good stuff. And I know that they play with different aspect ratios in IMAX for this, because I think they shot it on spherical lenses, and so that allows them to open up some scenes, and Guardians also did a similar thing in 3D. I would imagine that'd be fucking cool. I might go back in 4K laser just to see that.
For how big this is, it's cosmic, more so than Guardians of the Galaxy. Why is it so small? I think there's 7 people in this movie, really.
I mean, you
have the bad
it's
guy.
probably small in cast. Like I think not necessarily as much as scale. Like, for me, this isn't meant to be something that's big or epic. This feels more like, hey, there's this special group of people that know this secret, and here's what it is. And it's like, when you get to the stuff in the mirror dimension, it is like all this stuff that seems to be happening every day in the real world, but we're just not aware of it. Like there is a really cool action scene that takes place on different planes of existence where
Yeah.
you do see, okay, things that are happening in this dimension affect the real world, and it is so fucking cool how they play with that. That it's like it's not really small. It's just like there's this whole thing that's going on that we don't know about, and they play with it in a cool way where we can kind of see the consequences of that, but not really.
Even still though, like I don't mean the scale, but yeah, like just the cast of characters is so small. You see all these different masters and wizards or whatever the hell you want to call them, the fucking spellbinders in the school, and yet none of them get any lines. It's like the
There's
librarian.
so much stuff going on here. Like I mean,
But
you
you
know,
get
even
Benedict Cumberbatch or Benedict Cumberbatch.
yeah.
Rachel McAdams.
But and
Tilda
even then,
Swinton.
she only has one
She's
function.
like-
Like most of these
yeah,
characters do have
she's
one
unimportant.
function. Yeah,
Tilda
Rachel
Swinton.
McAdams is just the girlfriend to some extent. She's Gwyneth Paltrow. She's Natalie Portman. She's just kind of there. Tilda Swinton is basically the
teacher, like
yeah,
she's
the Obi-Wan.
almost everyone is unimportant here. Like
I
the
mean,
only
hell,
person
even-
important is
even the
Doctor
cape,
Strange.
you know, like as awesome as that cape is, which is
Yeah.
it's like the magic carpet in Aladdin.
100%
you know,
the
like,
magic carpet.
It's fucking awesome, but not a dynamic there right away. Like you get very few moments. It's enough to make an impression, and like I mean, you definitely love that cape, but you definitely don't get enough of it. And maybe that is a good thing that this movie does leave you wanting more. It is an introduction, but yeah, I mean that's stuff like that is really, if it was developed more, this could have been a great movie. At the end of the day, it's just a fun movie. I don't have any problems with
No,
that.
yeah,
but
it's definitely a
there's
fun
so
movie.
much cool shit there.
It's a
And,
fun
like,
popcorn flick. It's just I think I know we kind of talked about this during Ant-Man or maybe more so Civil War. It's a good movie. There's without a doubt. It's not bad. It's very enjoyable. I think you'd be hard pressed to not enjoy this film. It's just I think we've kind of started resting on our laurels. Like we're more forgiving. It's like, okay, we know this is Disney adapting one of their Marvel properties onto the big screen and it's going to tie in some way. And because of that knowledge, you know, this is post Iron Man 2. We just forgive and kind of forget. We're like, okay, I know
don't-
who Doctor Strange is now. I know how his powers work.
Yeah,
but
but I
like,
don't necessarily feel like I have to forgive anything here, because for me, in order to forgive, that's like saying, okay, you know what, I saw pure laziness. That's what's going on here,
well,
but it's
not laziness.
It's fine. Like,
just-
and yeah, I can't say that any of this is lazy. Like, there is not one scene that is like not cool or fun or well put together in some way. Like it does all add up, I feel. So there
It's
really
a-
isn't anything there to bother me. It's just I don't feel it's great or at a level that everyone seems to want Marvel movies to be at now, because we've gotten so many consistently well-made movies from them.
put it like this. Most of the world is still under the impression that Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice is a shit show. The same people think Suicide Squad is a train wreck. Both of those movies made me feel a certain way, made me think a certain way, brought me a new world, and yeah, that's because it's DC, not Marvel. Whereas this one just seemed more of the same, kind of like paint by numbers. You know, it's the same cliched, stereotypical origin story, except there's different powers at play here. As much as I love time manipulation and time travel and time loops and all that stuff, you know, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite films. It's not that it seems lazy here, it's just kind of like shoot in. Like you just go, oh, I have
it's
a
just kinda
photographic
like, hey,
memory.
this
Of
is
course
that
I know how to
world.
do it. Of course
Yeah,
I can
like-
do it. Like
Well, I think that's kind of just, you get to Doctor Strange as a character, like that's part of the disconnect there, is you don't really experience his origin because he gets everything on a first try, basically.
which is boring.
It really is boring, and that's why it's like you can't emotionally connect there. But okay, so you're watching someone that's pretty confident that he's a badass, and he is a badass. You may as well have fun with it. And this movie, like, it doesn't really try to get you to connect with Strange. You just have fun with him while he's doing it. That's what makes it a fun movie. Maybe not a great movie, maybe not one that you really like strongly identify with yet, but I mean, it's still fun, really. Like that.
You know, it's
the
fun
key thing
movie,
here, yeah.
gorgeous movie, cool story, cool powers, new interesting players in the MCU. Like Stephen Strange is obviously going to have a really big part in the Infinity War or Avengers 3 and 4 or whatever the hell they're going to end up calling them. They made that very obvious.
Yeah. We're not going to say why, but
But it's like he's that dick character that you can't really associate with because as much as you want to like him, there's not much likable. And you know,
well, it's more like you like watching him, and you do see that he at least has a conscience and that he cares, and that's kind of what makes him. That's what makes him more sympathetic, really.
The
But
thing though is, it's like he's lots of shades of Tony Stark. Like they're pretty
oh
similar.
yeah, no, like they're very arrogant. It's just, I guess with Tony Stark, it's he knows what he's doing and he doesn't really think about the consequences of what he's doing. With Strange, it's he just kind of tries something and has no comprehension whatsoever of what the consequences could be. Like when you're he has no idea what the consequences of him turning time around like will be when he tries that shit. Like it because he's never really told. Go back to that spell book. You never really know that shit until the end of the book. But it's very different in that sense that he is very much still learning here and doesn't know how far he can take something or really what the hell he's doing to begin with. And we really are just discovering this with him as it's happening.
I think my problem though, and it's a minor one because I still enjoyed the film. It's that in the first Iron Man, like, okay, yeah, Tony is introduced as this dick, pompous, one of the smartest guys on the planet, making these military weapons, whatever. It's just his hubris is shown very early. Like he always thinks he's right. He thinks he can solve everything, and then he's forced into the role of a superhero. He has to save his life with this suit. Whereas here, it's just, I'm the best on the planet. My hands are destroyed. I'm gonna do whatever possible to get my hands fixed.
Like that's the thing, is that he is basically broken at that point, and then he finds something new to cling to, and there is something very, very that I like about that, at least as far as the message of like, hey, if you think your life is over, but you don't know, you might just have another path in store for you, and you might find to enjoy something else, and I personally like that.
I like the final image of the film proper, without the mid credits and closing credit sequence. I like that actual final image with the watch. I love that. I love that theme, especially with how it ties into the story. Like, I just thought it was really great script writing. The problem though, it's like I said, it's like I'm forgiving. It's like, oh, it ended well. I like that final set piece. I like that time manipulation. But if I just had never seen a Marvel movie before, and I just popped this in for the first time as my introduction to the genre, or better yet, the world, I don't know if I would like it. Like, yes, definitely visually appetizing, very fun. The villain, for a change, is actually interesting. Like, you can buy into his worldview.
Yeah.
Like, Doctor Strange buys into his worldview.
Thing that really makes the villain work, because like it's like Mads Mikkelsen, as far as a villain, it's like I wish he commanded the screen in a more intimidating sense, something like Lashif, but really, that's what saves it here, is that, okay, this is probably the best villain that Marvel has had, just as far as motivation and finding someone that could just change your main hero's perspective entirely and make you question really what the hell it is that you're fighting for, especially for someone like him that's trying to learn everything, and it's really, his worldview is still being developed at this point, that he's at a very sensitive place. And it really just makes it far more dramatically interesting at that point, just to see where all that's going to go.
Like, there's really great pieces to this movie, and it's really fun, and I really liked it, but I can't buy this one. It was a little too late, or a little too little. Like, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a waste of money. It distracted me from what was going on in my personal life, and I enjoyed the voyage. It's just there wasn't much here. Like, it forced comedic moments when they weren't necessary. It had quips that didn't quite land, and maybe it's because I saw it with a crowd that wasn't laughing, but even still, it was just like, oh, look, it's Marvel doing Marvel things. Like, oh, what's your name? Oh, like Beyonce. And then you get him listening to Beyonce a minute later. Like, it was
the
like,
comedy landed for me and my audience. The quips landed. Maybe that's the benefit of an audience experience.
Yeah.
And, it's stuff like that makes me say, like, hey, I enjoyed this as much as Ant-Man. I had as much fun as I did with Ant-Man. I laughed.
Well, see,
maybe
Ant-Man,
a little
though,
less than Ant-Man, but
Paul Rudd's character though in Ant-Man is so sympathetic. You want to love him. You do love him. It's
especially
Paul
at the
Rudd.
beginning, yeah.
Like, it's impossible not to. And then even better yet, you have what's his name? What's his sidekick's name? Michael Pena, which
you love. You really love.
He stole like every scene. Like, I can't wait to see him in Ant-Man 2 or Avengers or whatever he shows up in. And there wasn't that here. It was, this is the Doctor Strange show. It's all me all the time. I got a love interest, but not really. I got a bad guy, but not really. I got a teacher who I know more than. Like, I have.
But he has the cape, man. Like,
I know he has the cape so late, okay? But like, just Chiwetel Ejiofor is set up so well here. he's going to be awesome in the sequel.
I would buy this for $1 for probably the same reasons as Ant-Man. Like, this is pure spectacle. And, like, it's not going to be on a top 10 list for me or anything, but just if I want escapism, if I want something that's going to make me feel good, something that I can just enjoy on a base level, a world that I really just want to just stay in for 2 hours, like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is one of those blockbusters where it's like, yeah, it really instills just that feeling of make-believe that you get as a kid, where it's just like you want to believe that this shit exists in your mind. You just kind of want to play Doctor Strange for a bit because you're not a kid anymore. You can't fucking play that shit with your friends. Like,
it's a joyous movie. There's great
if you're
imagery.
Jaden Smith, you want to you want to use all those practices, and you're like, and you know what, to some extent that is true. I don't have to be Jaden Smith to say, like, you know what, part of my mind really wants to just click with this stuff right now. Like, it's that kind of joy that you walk out with, and that's exactly why I would buy it for $1.
Something that Max Landis said about Civil War. He's like, if you enjoy Marvel movies as a nice slice of episodic storytelling, then it's fantastic. But if you're looking for a movie, it's not quite what it is. Like, that's true here. Like,
well, it's like sort of, because I mean, I can say, like, to this movie's credit and to Ant-Man's credit, like, all the movies that are at least a first. Like, they are self-contained stories and they're fun in their own ways, but I mean, just as far as the broader picture of the MCU, all this says is the Avengers once in a reference that makes sense. So you
get the Avengers
afterwards.
Tower like 2 times in the skyline.
Well, I actually wasn't looking for that, so I would believe it's there, but I didn't see it. And then you hear Infinity Stone once, and that's fine, but it doesn't ruin this movie, and it still stands alone quite well for me. I do think that I appreciate more now the differences between the Marvel Universe and the DCEU. And, like, even if Suicide Squad is a bit more of another pulpy, sort of crazy spectacle in that sense. But, like, I mean, yeah, after seeing, 2 DCEU movies back-to-back with the Ultimate Cut and Suicide Squad, then, yeah, this was me going back to Marvel and saying, you know what, this is why I like this, and this is why I like what they're doing over there. And I'm cool with that balanced diet.
I still like it. I'm still gonna keep seeing these movies. I'm interested in them. It's just, I don't get excited. I think I've seen so many that it's kind of just been muddled for me now. Like,
I don't get excited for this stuff anymore, but I'm just kind of like, you know what, I will happily watch it, because, like, it's like, let's say that this is like the 7th season of a TV show. You're just kind of like, well, I've gone this far. I may as well keep going. Yeah, and it once Phase 3 is over, then I will probably be like, okay, I might be able to miss a few. Yeah, it's like, and I'm sure that Phase 3 Infinity Wars will wrap up in a way where it's like there is a sense of finality there to some extent, even if it might keep going on.
There has to be, because I talked about this, and maybe not during Civil War, it could have been Ant-Man. We've talked about this on the show before. They've led us so far now, since, like, Iron Man 2, since the beginning of the MCU, that if it doesn't capitalize, if it doesn't have that triumphant feeling, if it isn't like that first Avengers film again, it's going to be horrible. It could kill the Marvel movies, because as much as I like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I haven't gone back to Luke Cage. 3 episodes was enough for me. I haven't at all felt the desire to continue that. And that's kind of what the movies are turning into for me now. Like, as Ant-Man, was very funny. I really liked the romance there. Seeing Michael Douglas on screen was special. The way that the powers worked there. I was learning so much, and it was just a fun ride. This one is also a fun ride, but it's like Disneyland versus Six Flags. It's like, this is Disneyland. Ant-Man was Six Flags. So, it's like a thrill. And there's a loop after loop. You don't know what to expect next. Whereas this was just like, yeah, I've seen this. I've done this. I've had a good time. Like, Benedict Cumberbatch has a really great American accent. Didn't know that. But Rachel McAdams, totally underutilized. Mads Mikkelsen, underutilized. Like, almost
very well written, but underutilized.
Oh, yeah, no, everyone is written well here, but just underutilized. Like, for being 2 hours, it's like they do a really good job of teaching you about how these powers work, why they work, their origins, all these kinds of things.
It's a very nice, tightly wrapped package, but
yeah,
I
wanted
wish it had
more.
a little bit more room to breathe. And if it did, it would probably be a brilliant movie on its own. Like, hey, let's say 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's probably not a bad runtime to ask for. Yeah, you probably could have given us more, and like that would have helped the movie, I think, significantly. It could have made it a great movie, but as it stands, hey, I had a lot of fun, and I like to have fun. Who doesn't like to have fun?
I had fun too.
Yeah, so hey, just as far as like a 3D fantasy spectacle, fuck yes, I was on board with it.
Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on Debt to Cinema, where one or both of us crosses a title off our list of shame.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Debt to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.